Alright guys, welcome back. What I've got for you today is a game called Combat Mission Black Sea. It's the newest iteration in the Combat Mission series of games by Battlefront. Um, it's a semi-real-time strategy, but what's really unique about this game is it's hyper-realism at its best. It's not like War Game where, War Game's a great game and whatnot, but it's more of a game versus this is more of a tactical simulation, if you will. And again, what this is this takes place in the Ukraine of all places, and it's a fictitious war between NATO forces and Soviet forces. Something that could actually possibly happen, in the near future, with what's going on in the Ukraine today. And this game has actually been in development for the last 6 years, so it's kind of just remarkable how the head shed there at the Battlefront kind of, I don't want to say predicted this, the current state of events, what's going on in the Ukraine, but they did so kind of with the last modern iteration of the combat mission games, which was Combat Mission Shock Force, which kind of predated, the civil war and unrest with what's going on in Syria and President al-Bashar and that whole mess over there. But without getting into politics, let's get into the game here, into the tactical sim. So what this is, again, this is a tactical strategy game. You can play it real-time strategy, but really, I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to the combat mission game, so I do the WeGo format, which basically means you give your units orders, like so, movement, combat, special, and then you've got various different orders within these subtrees. You give them orders, and then, you hit the button, the big red button down here, and for the next minute, real time, they try to carry out your orders as best as they can. And they have things like fatigue, ammunition, their experience. All these things affect how combat effective that they end up being. And so it's really cool. It kind of really tests your skills as a battlefield commander. And what this mission is here is, this is just a standalone mission. I haven't gotten into the campaign. There's 3 campaigns that come with Black Sea. There's a Russian campaign, a Ukrainian campaign, and a NATO campaign. And this is one of the NATO standalone missions. And what I'm tasked to do here is to hold this line of defense here. So bridge Charlie 6, Charlie 5, and Charlie 4. As you can see, I've got my forces arrayed. All these little blue counters represent units at my disposal and or emplacements. But I have to hold this line against, the Soviet onslaught. They want these bridges. This is how they're going to get their heavy armor across, this river in country. And I've got to kind of try to stop that. My forces are a little bit dwindled, so ammunition's running a little bit low. And, this is my initial deployment, and I'll go through what I've done here. Basically, these blue shaded areas, I can set up my units anywhere inside these blue shaded areas. And this is how I've chosen to array my forces here in preparation for, the inevitable Soviet onslaught that's going to be coming from the north. But as we can see, these little skull icons, these represent, we can get in nice and close here. These represent landmines. So I've mined each one of the bridge approaches, as you can see. I've kind of mined out here in this field because you can go across water with amphibious vehicles. So I've mined each bridge with 2 sets of mines. There's TRP, target reference points here, that I can use for when I call in artillery or airstrikes. And basically, if you don't know what a TRP is, it's like a quick designated reference point. It's a pre-designated reference point for your support calls. So it won't take as long, for the artillery to reach its time on target. I've split, and basically what I have here, I have I believe I have like just 1 platoon of infantry with some attached heavy weapons here. And what I've done, I've actually split my squads into anti-tank teams, just so I can cover a little bit more, territory here with what little forces I have. And as you can see, for instance, first squad A team here, You know, they're armed with M4s and 249 saws, and I put them right here at the face of the bridge. So anything that's going to come across here is going to run into a hell of lead, hopefully. But I don't expect, you know, Alpha Team here, First Squad, to stay here long. I'm going to have to retreat them out because, again, these are the only forces I have. I believe I get a reinforcement convoy later on in the mission, but you know, there's no telling when that's going to arrive and what I'm going to be hit with and how hard I'm going to be hit with it. So I'm just going to kind of play the obviously the defense. I'm going to try to attrit enemy forces and suck them into to kill zones where it's going to benefit me. I know that he can't get his armor across this water, I don't think. And I believe in the mission brief, and you guys can go back to the beginning of the video. I believe in the mission brief, he's got T-72s as well as assorted mechanized units that are amphibious. So is the AI going to come across some of these other areas? I'm not sure, but I'll get into my layered defense on how I think that I'm going to defend those areas. This is a B team of B squad. This is the actual anti-tank team. They're armed with 2 AT-4s, it looks like. And I've got them set on an armor fire arc here. So hopefully anything that decides to come through there is going to get shot up. Again, I put some landmines out here covering my left flank. I've got some engineers. Again, armed with M4s, grenade launcher. Platoon HQ's up here. I've got him in a nice high building. 3-story building. He's got line of sight. And you can see line of sight here. It'll tell you the range. If it's a solid blue line like this, it means he can see it. When the line gets broken like that, he can't see, no aim point. But he's got decent line of sight to the bridge, to this area back here. So when I start needing to call in artillery, he's going to be a pretty valuable asset. And because he is the platoon HQ, he will get priority on fires, you know, versus, say, one of the squad leaders trying to call in arty. I've got a forward observer up here who's got ultimate speed and priority of fire. But like I said, we'll get into that when we get over on the right flank. I've got my heavy machine gun, 240 Bravo. Actually, it's a 240 Lima. He's only got 300 rounds, though, so I'm going to have to use him sparingly because he will burn through those rounds. But he's in a 3-story building. And again, he's watching the same areas of approach as my, my platoon leader. Here in the center, what I've got, again, I've got my mines set up. I didn't want to do the same thing that is going on the left flank. I've got my 2 teams here. Again, I split up the squad, so A team, B team. This guy's armor looks like an XM25 or an M25 automatic grenade launcher. They've got some AT-4s, and again, your standard US, you know, squad arsenal of M4s and 249s. But they're watching this approach here. I didn't want to put them up in here like I did there on the left flank. The reason being is, A, I see a bunch of craters here. So does the enemy possibly have that targeted with artillery at TRP? Possibly. It looks like some of these buildings are already shot up, and you can see some of the walls have already been knocked down. So that would really offer me no cover. I could have put them in this building here, but with one wall knocked out already, and actually it looks like the back wall might be knocked out. Nope, just this one wall knocked out here. You know, that's already weakened structure, and I don't need that collapsing on my units because it'll wipe everybody out. So I put them in this 3-story building here, and hopefully they can stick it out. They still have good lines of fire, lines of sight into this area and on the other side, on the other bank of the river. I've got some foxholes back here that I can fall back to. Again, when the resupply convoy does come, they're going to be coming from this way here, down this main avenue of approach. So if I do need to retreat, I can retreat into these woods, safety. Same thing over here on the left flank. I can always have, you know, a second line of defense if I get pushed back into these woods and or these buildings back here and wait for resupply. To cover this open area here, if they do decide, if the enemy does decide to cross the river amphibious and just come across right here, I've got a javelin. He only has 1 missile, so he's gonna have to make it count. But you know, I've got it just in case. So moving over to the right flank, again, another javelin, kind of the same setup. Just kind of covering this dead space here. Let's see, 2 mines right here, TRP. I didn't want to set up in this building here right on Charlie Fort just because it's wide open up here, and if they get in the woods up here in the north, you know, they can just lay down a lot of fire, and I just think the survivability of that's going to be, you know, nil. So I backed them off a little bit. I put A team here. This is second squad, so M4s, 249s, and then B squad, which is the anti-tank team. If I can get the icon to highlight here, there we go. B squad with an AT4 and again an M25 automatic grenade launcher is up here. I've got to move this machine gun over into this building out of my far right flank. I've got a breach team over here, M4s. I put some mines over here, and over here. And then a little bit further back in the tallest building on the map, I figured it was as good a place as any to set up my sniper team. They're armed with an M110 and an M107 50 cal sniper rifle. As well as I've got my forward observer who can call in a plethora of stuff. On the map, I've got this 60mm mortar team, which I placed right here in the woods. I'll close this out so I can show you guys. So I've got my 60 Mike mortar team. It's got 26 rounds, 5 rounds of Willie Pete, and 26 rounds of high explosive. So they're ready to go and on call. As well as, if we go back to our forward observer there, zoomed a little too far out. I've got off-map support of 120mm mortars and 105 howitzers. So I definitely have some firepower on my side. I'm sure the Russians have some firepower as well, so I'm just going to have to make sure that I stay clear of where they can see me. If I see artillery coming down, I need to make sure that, that I've got a good plan of escape. So here on the right side, just like on the left side, if things get a little too hairy, I can always fall back. There's a nice hill, and that's one of the things that you really got to do when you start this game, is kind of do a nice terrain analysis before you set up your units. And obviously you're kind of limited where you can set up, you know, in the designated areas, you know, designed by the mission commander. But you should always get down to ground level and get a nice terrain analysis. Just because this game does take into account cover, concealment. If you can't see it, you can't shoot it. You know, if they're in cover, it's going to be harder to shoot. You've got to worry about suppression, all sorts of good things. So I've already done it. You know, a good terrain analysis. I'm not going to go into that. Maybe in the next video or the next mission, you know, before I set up my units, I'll get into a nice terrain analysis. But as you can see, there's some nice hills here. So I've got some areas where I can fall back and use the terrain to my advantage. So with that being said, guys, that concludes the first phase here of Combat Mission Hold the Line. It's my setup phase. I will have follow-on videos completing this mission, so stay tuned and let me know what you guys think. If you guys want to see more of this, I'm going to break it up into little chunks. I think that's just going to be easier for you guys to digest instead of doing one whole, you know, 3-hour-long video. I'll do maybe 10, 15 minutes at the most, just break it up into a couple turns, and kind of drip feed them to you guys like that. All right, you guys take it easy, and I'll catch you later. Bye.